Welcome and thank you for joining us today for our annual Montgomery County Black History Program. My name is Toyka Williams, and I'm grateful to share in this celebration with you. I'm also thankful for our ancestors, the unselfish visionaries who journeyed, sacrificed, toiled, and labored so that the many generations that follow can be present today in this very moment and enjoy this presentation. This year marks a significant and historic milestone that recognizes 100 years of Black history commemorations, a century of national efforts to study, honor, and commemorate the history, culture, and contributions of people of African descent. This centennial honors the enduring vision of Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the founders of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. The association laid the foundation for what began as Negro History Week in 1926, and it later evolved into Black History Month 50 years later. Its mission is to promote, research, preserve, interpret, and disseminate information about Black life, history, and culture to the global community. Before we get started, I'd like to share a few quick housekeeping items to help keep our session to run smoothly. You're welcome to place your comments and questions in the chat throughout today's presentation. If you have a question specifically for our presenter and you are going to enjoy the presentation, please be sure to send it to the host and panelists only. There should be a drop-down menu in the chat that says host and panelists only. This will help us keep track of questions during the session. If you have a general comment or would like to respond to something in the presentation, feel free to share your message with everyone in the chat. Again, there is a drop-down menu in the chat. So let's get started. We are pleased to have our Register of Wills and Clerk of Orphans Court with us today, Attorney Tina Lawson. She is one of 10 row officers serving the residents of Montgomery County. Her office probates wills and processes interstate estates. This office is also agent for the Commonwealth in the collection of inheritance taxes. As clerk of the Orphans Court, her office issues marriage licenses and has charge of the Orphans Court docket. Her office takes petitions for adoptions, as well as keep records of all persons born in Montgomery County between 1893 and 1915. So welcome, Attorney Lawson. Okay, well, we will have a Judge Hakeem Jones to step in for Attorney Lawson. Judge Jones.
Good afternoon, everybody. We apologize for the technical difficulties. However, I do want to welcome everybody to our 2026 Black History Celebration here in Montgomery County. As you know, the Department of Health and Human Services, the county employees of Montgomery County, and many local community partners work very hard throughout the year to host the Black History Celebration over the course of 4 Wednesdays. Today, we are excited to honor Dr. Charles L. Blockson, and we're going to learn a lot from our Temple University, Dr. Diane Turner. So with that said, this Black History Month is not just for the month. As we know, Black History is 365. The things that we learn and discuss here in these Black History events are things that we should be proud of, things that we're thankful for, and things that have been done and have been set before us, which gives many of us the opportunity to live the lives that we live today. Many of our local leaders, many of our successful individuals in our Black and Brown communities are a true, we are a true reflection of the work and the sacrifice and the grind that has been done before us. So with that said, we want to welcome everyone. We want to welcome our county commissioners. We want to welcome our residents at large. We want to welcome our community supporters who allow us to do this event every year.
Thank you, Judge Jones. Reverend Carolyn Cavanis is a fourth generation preacher who currently serves as the 53rd pastor of Mother Bethel AME Church in Philadelphia. She will provide our invocation. She started to preach at the early age of 14. She got her calling then. Reverend Cavanis is truly a bridge to connecting people and resources to better her community. She desires us all to use our God-given talents and gifts to reach people. Is Reverend Cavanis available? Okay, well, it's great to have backup when things don't go as you have planned. So we're going to ask one of the Black History Month committee members, Juanita, is going to give us our invocation.
Good afternoon, all. Let us bow before the Lord. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we come to you this afternoon with grateful hearts. We thank you so much for another opportunity to celebrate culture, to acknowledge our history, to represent all things beautiful and Black. Lord, we thank you for another opportunity to gather together to learn and to highlight those pivotal players in our community. Today, we take time to honor Charles Blockson, the exhibit, and all that he has contributed. And so right now, God, as we humble our hearts and draw our minds in, we ask that you would have your way. We thank you for all that have joined us and all that will join us. Cover us and keep us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Juanita. Great to set the tone there. Montgomery County Commissioner Thomas DeBello is 1/3 of our dynamic trio of commissioners that serve as the legislative and executive arm of Montgomery County government. The commissioners name all department heads as well as most members of various boards, authorities, and committees. In addition, the commissioners establish salaries for all employees, responsible for the preparation, adoption, and execution of the annual budget, as well as for the taxing of all property. Welcome, Commissioner DeBello.
Well, thank you. And for those that haven't had the opportunity, our own Judge Page, when he sings that the Black National, he does an amazing job as well. He sang it at a couple of our different events. He has a beautiful voice and he does such a great job. But as mentioned, I'm Montgomery County Commissioner Tom DeBello, and I'm one of three. We have a great team of working together. We just finished up our second annual State of the County address this morning at Montgomery County Community College. We had probably over 500 people in attendance, so it was a good event. And it's just our way of letting the community, the public, know everything that we've been working on over the last year. I want to thank again, having the opportunity. Thank you for having the opportunity to have me part of this celebration here in Montgomery County. I also want to thank the Black History Month Committee for organizing this. They volunteer their time outside of their regular duties. So we're so grateful for everything that they do with getting this organized each year. We all know Philadelphia area is such a rich area in history, especially as we're getting ready to celebrate America 250 this summer. But we're also lucky to have the Blockson Collection as part of today's program. Charles Blockson was a Norristown native who went on to be a star athlete at Penn State, which was my alma mater as well. But he chose to be focused on scholar instead of sports. And, thanks to that choice, we now have an amazing collection of history with over 700,000 artifacts here in the county. And it's an incredible collection, not just African-American history, but also African history. The collection has rare pieces of art or works that are well over 400 years old. It's really a great representation of our history here in the Philadelphia region. As you know, African Americans played a major role in shaping the city as well as Montgomery County. This is well documented in the collection with over 300,000 photographs of life in Philadelphia during the last century, as well as many historic records and family documents that tell countless stories. So many of the artifacts in this collection are a major part of history. So we are grateful to have the Blockson collection here. And thank you to Diane Turner from Temple University for joining the program. I believe she's on the call today. And I'm honored again to be part of all of this. So again, thank you very much. And I look forward to the rest of the month and hearing all the amazing things that are going to be going on. So thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Bello, for being with us and sharing. Now for the delicious entree of this program. We are pleased to have Black excellence in our midst. Our presenter today is Dr. Diane Turner, who says her universal love for people stems from her love of self and her people, African American people. As her longtime mentor, Dr. Charles L. Blockson modeled that love of all people. Since 2007, she has served as a curator for the Charles L. Blockson Afro-American Collection at Temple University. The collection is one of the nation's foremost university-based collections of African American prints, photographs, slave narratives, manuscripts, letters, and other materials. So let's start at the beginning and learn how the collection came to be. Shanita, will you show the video?
When I was in the 4th grade, I had a substitute teacher. And one day we were talking about American history. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Ben Franklin, others who contributed to the founding of this country. And I raised my hand. I asked her about the colored people, as we were called, the Negroes. Do we have a history? She said, no, Charles. Negroes were born to serve white people. There was a time in our history where we weren't permitted to read and write. A time in our history where any person caught with a book or reading or write, they were often whipped. But we have come a long way. Collecting is important. I call myself a bibliophile, which I love books. I'm a bibliophile, a book lover. I love to smell old books. I love to feel them. I like to go to the bookstores, get on my knees in antique shops and barns and all the other places. You can always pick them up. And you can always read them when you're lonely, when you're curious. Unfortunately, I guess I'm sort of a dying breed. I hope I'm not.
Charles Leroy Blockson was born in 1933 in the midst of the Great Depression to Annie Parker Blockson and Charles Edward Blockson. The eldest of 8 children, he spent his childhood in Norristown, Pennsylvania.
We had people of all races and colors and creeds on my street. Our parents told us there certain things that colored and Negro that we would have to endure, because there was, even in Norristown, there were places that we couldn't go. So we had this de facto segregation.
Spurred by his teacher's painful words, Blockson unknowingly began what would become a lifelong journey to unearth, collect, and preserve the history, culture, and contributions of people of African descent.
I went into the Salvation Army stores and Goodwill stores looking for any book that said Negro, colored, African, West Indian, or Black. So I started to collect.
The budding historian and collector was also a star athlete in multiple sports, from junior high through his college years at Penn State. Even while playing sports, Blockson always found his way back to books. Later in life, he would turn down an opportunity to play professional football in favor of his collecting.
So wherever I traveled playing sports, where other teammates would go to the parties, I would go to the bookstores, then I would go to the parties. My roommates and teammates wondered, why do you always go to those bookstores? They didn't really know what I was collecting. In my room, my books competed under the bed with my boxing gloves, my footballs, my shot put and discus and all the other stuff. So it was a competition right there between books, athletics, and so forth. I'm glad that the books won out. I didn't have any idea at all that it would extend as far as it has over the years. It was more to pacify my own soul and intellect. And I guess underneath, from a psychological point of view, to prove my teacher wrong. So from a little boy curious going from the Salvation Army to Goodwill stores, my book collection excursion have taken me to many parts of the world. And it's led me to donating my first collection here at Temple University in 1984. The second collection is at Penn State.
I'm glad that the books won out to Dr. Blockson. Dr. Blockson's only daughter, Noelle, couldn't be here with us today, but she wanted to share her appreciation for all of you. She sent this message. Thank you, everyone, for expressing interest in learning about my beloved late father, Charles L. Blockson, the distinguished scholar, historian, author, bibliophile, and curator who hailed from his cherished hometown of Norristown. It was over 80 years ago that he developed a keen interest in learning about Black history via his grandfather, who informed him that his ancestor traveled with Harriet Tubman through the Underground Railroad to freedom. Throughout his vast travels, he was introduced to many people, including Harriet Tubman's great niece, who bequeathed him over 30 items of the revered Underground Railroad conductor. He later donated them, including Miss Tubman's iconic shawl, to the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. From a curious youth with an insatiable thirst for learning all things Black history, to a man whose deep knowledge shaped every conversation he touched and every community he served. My dad's passion for understanding the past helped others make sense of the present, and the impact of his work continues to resonate long after his passing. He passed away in June of 2023 at the age of 89. His contributions earned him numerous awards and recognitions throughout the years, including the highly distinguished Philadelphia Award, the 1984 National Geographic cover story, and 4 university honorary degrees, each recognizing the breadth of his intellect and the integrity of his offerings. Today, several institutions proudly bear his name, a testament to the influence he had, the lives he inspired, and the legacy he built. She goes on to say that here's a shameless plug, and she would like for you to visit the Charles L. Blockson Afro-American Collection at Temple University, the Patriots of African Descent Monument in the Valley Forge National Park, the Charles L. Blockson Collection of African and Americana and the African Diaspora at Penn State University, the Charles L. Blockson Exhibit at Center Theater in Norristown, and Blockson Middle School, also in Norristown. She said she would like to encourage you to read his many publications. He authored 14 books. Now we'd like to direct your attention to his esteemed curator of the Temple University Collection, Dr. Diane Turner, who will expound more on his enduring legacy. Dr. Turner, a native of Malvern, is a proud Temple alum and holds 3 Temple University degrees. She earned a Bachelor of Arts with a double major in art and anthropology, a master's and PhD from the Department of History. Her areas of specialization and research include African American labor, culture and social history, Philadelphia jazz history, independent Black filmmakers, oral history, and public history. She has authored 3 books published by Third World Press, and they include My Name is Oni Judge, Feeding the Soul, Black Music, Black Thought, and Our Grand Pop is a Montford Point Marine, who she co-authored with her father, Corporal Thomas S. Turner Sr. She is currently working on a book entitled New Music Screaming in the Sun, Interviews with Hekai R. Madhubutu. Dr. Turner, we welcome you, and we're eager to hear from you. Dr. Turner, are you on mute?
Oh, it would help, right? Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank the good Lord. I'd like to thank my family, especially Corporal Thomas S. Turner Sr., who was among the first Blacks to serve in the Marine Corps, and my other ancestors, and of course, Mr. Blockson, my mentor. And it is an honor to give this presentation to Montgomery County. You should thank Judge Hakeem Jones. He's very persuasive. And so here I am. So I might be a little redundant in some spaces because you talked about some things, but I just wanted to go back to Carter G. Woodson for a minute. And of course, this is Black History Month. But Black History Month was actually established Negro History Week, February 7th, 1926. And what he did, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is because Mr. Blockson used this same model. He took Black history out of the classrooms into the Black community. And the purpose, which Mr. Blockson did the same thing, to rewrite history, to rehabilitate Black people, to eradicate racial myths, to establish and secure a respectable place for Black people in American society, to develop self-respect and self-esteem, and to force America to live up to justice and equality to apply to all citizens. And then in 1976, it became Negro History Week. But we here at the Blockson Collection, we do Black History 365. And I'm always telling people some of the oldest Americans are people of African descent. In terms of his background, the first part that you showed covered that, but I just wanted to mention 2 things that weren't mentioned. That after he graduated from Penn State and he had the opportunity to play a professional football, but he chose to educate and be a bibliophile. He was inducted into the U.S. Army in August 4th of 1958, and he received an assignment in Korea in 56. He was inducted and received an assignment in 1957. He married Elizabeth Parker on August 4th, 1958 at the St. Patrick's Catholic Church in Norristown. And in 1960, Mr. Blockson and Josh Culbreth traveled with their wives to Rome, to the Olympics. And of course, Noel was born May 20th, 1965. And that was Mr. Blockson's soulmate, Noel. He said it all the time. And her and I are very close. She's like a sister to me because I said, Well, Noel, I thought of your dad as my father, so you're my sister. So I just like to go over some of his, I picked some selected accomplishments. Noel mentioned the National Geographic in 1984, which was entitled Escape from Slavery, Underground Railroad. But the important thing about that was it was the first cover story pertaining to African American people and one of the most popular stories in the history of National Geographic magazine. Over 40 million people worldwide read that magazine. And as a result of that, the United States State Department commissioned Mr. Blockson to lecture on the subject in the Caribbean islands and South America. He was a founding member of the Pennsylvania Black History Committee of the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission in 1976. He was the president of the Pennsylvania Abolition Society in 1976. Noel mentioned his awards, all four of his awards, one from Villanova, one from Lincoln, one from Holy Family University, and one from Temple. He was the director of the Philadelphia African American Pennsylvania State Historical Marker Project, and it is the largest African American marker program in the United States. And Dr. Bernard Watson, the first Black president and chief executive officer of William Penn Foundation, awarded Mr. Blockson $92,000 grant to fund the installation of 65 Black state historical markers in Philadelphia. And he also produced a guide, which we're hoping at some point we'll have a benefactor give us the funds to update that guide, because since then, many more have been placed in Philadelphia. But Mr. Blockson was the catalyst for it. In 1992, the United States Congress passed Public Law number 101628, recognizing the significance of the Underground Railroad in American history. The legislation prompted the National Park Service to conduct a study of the historical sites associated with the Underground Railroad. Because of Mr. Blockson's extensive research, he was selected chairperson of the advisory committee to examine significant historical sites in 20 states and territories, including linkages to Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean islands. President William J. Clinton signed the National Underground Railroad Network Freedom Act into law on July 21st, 1998. And so Mr. Blockson was involved in that. Now, once I became curator, one of Mr. Blockson's proudest moments was the unveiling of the state historical marker that commemorated the Pennsylvania slave trade on August 5th, 2016. Mr. Blockson researched, applied for the state historical marker. Once approved by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, he insisted on paying for the marker and its installation of $1,625. And the marker reads as follows: African people, first enslaved by the Dutch and Swedes, survived the brutal voyage from Africa to the Caribbean islands and the Americas. debarking on the Delaware River waterfront as early as 1639. William Penn, other Quakers, and Philadelphia merchants purchased and enslaved Africans. As the institution of slavery increased, these courageous Africans persevered and performed integral roles in the building Pennsylvania and the nation. End quote. And then Noel mentioned that he was a recipient of one of the highest awards you could get in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Award, which he got for advancing the best and largest interests of the community. In the film, I don't know whether they're going to cover what motivated Mr. Blockson, and I hope I'm not being redundant, but I took some quotes from him. I'd like to take you back to 1943 and why his teachers' comments, although they embarrassed him and he was hurt, but at the same time, it motivated him. And these quotes are from his memoir called Damn Rare. And here's how it goes, quote, "My grandfather left an indelible mark on me when I was 10 years old. I have a vivid memory of the first hearing my own family's connection to the Underground Railroad. I remember as though it was yesterday, the first time that I heard about the Underground Railroad. I was sitting on a box in the backyard of my home in Norristown, listening to my grandfather tell stories which included mystery and hope and terror about my ancestors who made the decision to take their freedom through travel on the Underground Railroad. He sang old Negro spirituals like Wade in the Water. I asked him about the song. He paused and explained, my father, your great-grandfather James, and his cousins escaped from slavery as teenagers. My grandfather knew that they ran away from Delaware by way of the Underground Railroad to Canada, but nothing more. From that day that my grandfather spoke to me, to this day, the Underground Railroad and all of its abiding mystery, hope, and terror took possession of my imagination. And because of that, there was this belief in the larger society that Black people had no history. Mr. Blockson was able to acquire many rare books. We have over 5,000 rare books and growing every day. And I'd like to read another quote to you by Mr. Blockson. We spent so much time together talking, and we would be filled with tears and laughter sometimes. But he said, I remember hiding Langston Hughes' autobiography, I Wonder as I Wonder, 1956, behind the shelves in an Atlantic City bookshop until I could scrape together the purchase money for it. Sure enough, I was laying in the same spot when I returned to buy it 3 weeks later. I did not nearly have as much competition for books from booksellers and other collectors in 1959. And as you know today, these books that he has would cost thousands and thousands of dollars. He reflected on the Underground Railroad, and he talked about the discovery of the Underground Railroad and has this to say. My first major discovery about the Underground Railroad came 5 years later at the age of 15 while I rode the train from Norristown to browse in some of Philadelphia's bookstores. On a table marked Hurt Books at the old Leary's bookstore at 9th and Market Street, I spotted a thick and green, worn-covered volume by William Still, The Underground Railroad, 1872. I paid $5 for this quite rare book published by an African-American agent on Philadelphia's Underground Railroad. In Still's book, I found accounts of heroism and the fugitive enslaved Africans, and that the men and the women, black and white, north and south, who helped them flee from bondage at enormous risk. And he goes on to say on the bottom of page 488, and you can look in when you come to the collection, in large print was the heading, Arrival from Sussex County, Delaware, 1858, Jacob Blockson, George Allagood, Jim Allagood, and George Lewis. Jacob was the cousin of my great-grandfather James. Both had escaped to Ontario, Canada. Jacob told William Still that I made up my mind that I did not want to be sold like a horse. I resolved to die sooner than I would be taken back. And so I'd like to share with you some of Mr. Blockson's research, which I think you would be very interested in, the Underground Railroad in Norristown. Norristown was a major depot switching station on the Underground Railroad because of its location near Philadelphia and surrounding counties. Many freedom seekers traveled through Norristown via the Underground Railroad. Norristown had the largest Black community in Montgomery County who were faithful and held strong conviction against slavery. So strong was the faith among residents of the Black community that many fugitives stayed there. Among them were John and Jane Lewis, who organized Mount Zion AME Church in 1844 that became a major stop on the Underground Railroad. African-American Dan Ross and his wife, who lived on Green Street near Jacoby, were conductors on the Underground Railroad in Norristown. Other Black agents and conductors were William Lewis, John Augusta, and James Johnson. Freedom seekers who arrived in Norristown were hidden in the basement of a paint shop located on the south side of Church Street between Marshall and Chester Streets. Besides some of the Quaker institutions, the First Baptist Church, once located at the corner of Erie and Swede Street, was the only church in the county open to anti-slavery lectures, such as William Lloyd Garrison, Lucy Stone, Lucretia Mott, Wendell Phillips, and Frederick Douglass. Pastor Hiram Hutchison supported the cause and served as an agent on the Underground Railroad. And Reverend Samuel Aaron, the pastor from 1841 to 44, promoted immediate emancipation for enslaved Africans. He was invited by William Lloyd Garrison to speak at the 20th anniversary of the formation of the American Anti-Slavery Society held in Philadelphia. I would be remiss if I didn't mention also there was an abolition hall in Plymouth Meeting that was at the center of the anti-slavery activities. So now I'm going to wrap up. Mr. Blockson retired in 2006. and became curator emeritus. I was hired in 2007. I don't try to fill his footsteps. They're too big. But I was very fortunate because when I was working on my doctorate in the history department, I was his graduate assistant. And so he found out that I had a passion for African American history too. I would like to end this presentation with a story during my time as curator working with Mr. Blockson. And I should mention that whenever we had groups here, I would call Mr. Blockson and I would say, Mr. Blockson, can you come down? Everyone would love to see you. And he would say, Diane, can you just leave me alone? I'm retired. I said, he would come and he would tell people, this woman won't leave me alone. And I would say, that's right. I know your address. I know your telephone number, and I know your daughter's telephone number. But it was always a joy to see him, and he would come and he would always share more knowledge. In 2010, he inherited 39 personal items of Harriet Tubman from her relative, Merlene Wilkins. After much prayer, he decided to donate those items to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. But before then, when he called me one day all excited, and he said, you will never guess what happened to me. I said, Mr. Blockson, tell me. And then he told me about these pieces. I said, oh, that's great. Are you going to make them part of the Blockson collection here? He said, Diane, be cool. I have to pray on it. I'll call you in a couple of days. I said, okay. So he called me in a couple of days. But when he called me, he sounded really tired. And he wasn't as enthused as he was at first. And so I asked him, "What, Mr. Blockson, what's wrong?" He said, well, I have the items in my safety deposit box and I'm uncomfortable with them being there. I don't feel like they're safe there. I have to figure something out. I said, well, please, Mr. Blockson, get yourself some rest and call me back when you figure it out. So another couple of days went by and he called me. And he was all excited again. And he said, I found the perfect place for them. They're safe. I don't have to worry until I decide. I said, where? He said, underneath my bed. I said, okay. So he called Lonnie Bunch, and Lonnie told this story about Mr. Blockson. He said, when Charlie called me, I didn't believe him. I'm a top historian in the world, and I never heard about any 39 personal items of Harriet Tubman's. So I told Charlie I had to come to Philadelphia, which he did. Mr. Blockson brought the materials, the rare items, and they were on the table in the Blockson collection. Lonnie walks in with two of his curators. He goes to the table, and his eyes just start to well up with tears. And any of you who know Mr. Blockson, if you knew him and you were a guy, you know, his way of showing endearment was either to slap you on the back or give you a punch in the arm. If you were a woman, he would kiss your hand. So when Lonnie welled up like that, and he asked, Mr. Blockson punched him in his arm. And so Lonnie looked at him and said, do you want to sell these things? And Mr. Blockson hollered at him, are you kidding me? How could I sell something as sacred as Harriet Tubman's possessions? I'm going to donate them to the National Museum. And he punched Lonnie again in the arm. And Lonnie said that he was so excited, he wanted to jump for joy. But his arm was so sore, all he could do was stand there. So with that, you know, I have many stories about Mr. Blockson, but there were two quotes I wanted to end with. One was a quote. He said, what excites me is the search, the agony, and the ecstasy of collecting. And Mr. Blockson, even after he retired, he was always bringing books in because he was still looking for books. But when he was started collecting back in 1943, and when he was at Penn State, when the other guys would go to parties, he would go to bookstores first. And people would laugh at him and say, "Why are you collecting all this old Negro stuff?" And basically, he paid for everything himself, accumulating over 20,000 items when it came to Temple. And he decided to bring the collection to Temple because Temple was in the heart of an African-American community. And the key word about the Blockson collection is FREE. We're a top research facility, and you can come here and do research all day between 9 and 5, and it doesn't cost you anything. We have a top staff. Aslaku Brahano is the librarian. Leslie Willis-Laurie is the archivist, and Circades Alamehu is our digital person. And her and I have a project called We Remember and We Recall, where we're conducting oral history interviews with former and long-term residents of North Philadelphia. So we're creating a lot of primary source material. So I just want to read this last quote that Mr. Blockson said that basically talks about why it's important. "I want to eliminate ignorance, which is another, and in many ways, a much worse form of slavery than physical bondage. In today's world, the lack of understanding breeds fear, suspicion, hate, insecurity, and inferiority, all avoidable evils." And I would just end with, it's important to know who you are, because if you don't know who you are, anybody can name you. And the thing that we promote here in the Blockson collection is African American history is American history. And some of the oldest Americans are people of African descent. In fact, there's research that shows that Africans were here in America BC, and that African history is world history. So it's for everyone. So everyone is welcome to come to the Blockson collection. And I thank you for listening to me.
Wow, I am just so filled, Dr. Turner. Thank you so much for sharing. My eyes welled up as you was telling those personal stories about Dr. Blockson. We are so grateful for his vision, because he saw beyond his present, and to do this, put this collection together for generations to come. So I really appreciate you sharing. We have another part of the video that we want to share. In addition to written material, more than 5,000 books, as Dr. Turner shared, there are many parts of the collection that evoke such emotion. And there's one part Dr. Blockson shared why he hesitated in adding these items to the collection. So we're going to share that part of the video now.
The shackles are very emotional. I hesitated in the beginning whether I should even try to preserve them. But nevertheless, they sort of went along with the books and manuscripts that I have pertaining to enslavement. To know that my own ancestors were enslaved. There's a story behind these shackles that is a part of the history. My eyes was always on the positive as well as the negative. This is the negative part of our history. This is the key that inserts into the lock here to open the lock. They made them for the arms and the ankles, and sometimes they had them around the mouth.
For a lot of students, and I think for a lot of Americans, ideas about slavery are so removed from our everyday experiences. And so to look at something and imagine an item like that being worn by another human being is just, well, it's very sad.
From the shackles, we emerged into writers, judges, preachers, ministers, actors, all kinds of endeavors in life. It gives me strength and determination to carry on.
This collection tells a story of tremendous diversity. There's something to be said, not just for the materials that are collected, but just the process of collecting and creating this archive that says this is a sacred project, and that these are important materials. This is a story worth telling. And so you see, African American culture has been foundational in the development of American society.
Charles Blockson is not only a collector, but an educator, historian, and author, writing articles and books on varied topics, including Black genealogy. He has championed the placement of markers at significant African American historical locations around Philadelphia, and has become one of the Philadelphia area's most trusted and treasured voices.
We call him the gentle giant.
It's so good to see you.
He's a warrior too. He encourages everyone to document their histories.
I'll be very careful.
Whenever he walks in the room, people just are in awe of him. Oh,
You
thank
didn't bother me all week, so I'm doing good.
Well, that's why I did, so you would be glad to see me today. Because more than anything else, he's been dedicated and committed to the preservation and dissemination and documentation of African American history and culture. And he's been consistent with that over the years, even when it wasn't in vogue.
And I can get copies of this, so I can get copies for our classroom libraries at school.
I have a few more at home.
Oh, it's always great. He knows everyone, and if he doesn't know someone, you can never tell because he's just so open with people.
Do you have a copy of Moses yet?
It's impressive, too, because whatever you're working on, he'll just look over and he'll be able to tell you all about whatever you're doing. So he's a really smart man.
Thank you. You can find that full video at www.wpsu.org/Blockson, and we'll make sure that it's placed in the chat as well. Before we get to some of the questions for Dr. Turner, we want to ask Judge Jones to share some information about the Center Theater exhibit. We are very fortunate to have that extension of the Temple University collection here in Norristown. So Judge Jones.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dr. Turner, for the amazing presentation. As you know, Temple University, Penn State University, many other places, they host Dr. Blockson's work. We also have an amazing space here in Norristown, Montgomery County, the heart of Montgomery County, our county seat. There is a great partnership between Temple University and the Norristown community. So the Dr. Charles L. Blockson exhibition is located at the Center Theater here in Norristown, 208 DeKalb Street in our downtown. The Center Theater is controlled by the Greater Norristown Society for the Arts, and it's operated by the Norristown Zoological Society. From his early childhood years in Norristown, Dr. Blockson accumulated an incredible collection of rare materials, as we learned. He liked to collect the story of African Americans, and Dr. Blockson, his exhibit in Norristown is a celebration of all of his life's work, and in addition to all that's around the world. In the Norristown collection, you will find manuscripts from our music artist, late and great Tupac Shakur. There is memorabilia from the Mr. Blockson's youth here in Norristown. He was a former Gottwalls Elementary student, and the Norristown Middle School, Stewart Middle School, was recently renamed to Blockson Middle School. You'll also find images and rare books that are available at the Blockson collection, including The Underground Railroad by William Still. Also included are photos by John W. Mosley, who was a self-taught Philadelphian photographer who chronicled Black life in and around Philadelphia from the late 1930s to the 1960s. And you'll also find an expansive timeline of Dr. Blockson's life achievements. All are welcome to visit the Norristown exhibition, and you can schedule a tour by visiting their website, centertheater.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Jones. It is worth the trip. I've been a couple of times and just in awe and learn new things each time I go. So we'll make sure that the link to Center Theater is in the chat. You can go to the website to get the admission fee as well as the exhibit hours.
This is Commissioner DeBello.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. This was amazing, very informative information, but unfortunately, I have to drop off to get to. But again, I just wanted to thank everyone and look forward to seeing you all soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Now we'll get into our Q&A portion. Sonia, do we have any questions in the chat that we want to ask Dr. Turner?
So Toika, at this time, we have one question in the chat.
Okay.
Are you able to view the question, or would you like for me to repeat the question?
Please read
to
the
audience.
Yes.
Okay. Question reads, how do you reach out to participate in the upcoming exhibits and book sign promotions?
Okay, we have a number of public programs. You can either go on Temple University Library's website, and on it, click on the Blockson Collection. You can get our email addresses, and we can send you those materials. I guess I could put in the chat my email address, or or I can give it to you. It's D as in Diane, D Turner at temple.edu. And anyone who reaches out to me, I can let you know when we have public programs. As I had mentioned, we're open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. And so you're welcome to come. We have a number of public programs. On the 25th of February, we have Dr. Adjo Asmoa, who was instrumental in getting the Crown Act passed in Pennsylvania. She will be here on the 25th of February, and the hours are between 5 and 7. And it'll be in Sullivan Hall in the Finestone Lounge upstairs from where we are. And all of our programs, as the collection is, are free and open to the public. We have an endowment, if anyone wants to donate, that's what enables us to be able to do it free. We also go out into the community. We actually have a satellite library at the Strawberry Mansion Learning Center in North Philadelphia. And we have groups come here, students come, their teachers from Temple and other universities and colleges, as well as high schools, call and make arrangements to come to the collection for a tour or just to utilize some materials in the collection. But we have an extensive collection of materials, over 700,000. And I sent Judge Jones and others a song that was sent to me yesterday. A woman donated a Quran to the collection, And she looked around and took pictures, and it inspired her to write a song. And I was sitting in my office yesterday, and it came in, and I'm busy working, and I click on, and then I'm swaying back and forth listening to this song that she wrote about the Blockson collection. But the song, it says 700,001, because she includes her donation that she included in there too. But we're very user friendly. We go out into the community a lot. I do a lot of community service. And also, I tell everybody that we're probably Temple's best public relations piece, the Blockson collection.
Mhm.
So, yeah. That is.
Dr. Turner, Dr. Blockson mentioned the teacher that possibly could have deterred him, but he didn't allow it. Did he ever talk to you about that teacher, or did he ever meet that teacher again?
In his memoir, which we have copies of for sale here, we have his books here, called Damn Rare, he mentions the fact that he saw her later in life and she apologized to him. But keep in mind, that her thoughts were what was popular at that time. That's what the larger society was thinking, that we have no history. And that's why, it's so important, the Blockson collection, what he did, and Carter G. Woodson, because no matter what happens in the larger society, you can't erase our history. We have to be the ones to preserve it. What Langston used in one of his poems said, "Who's going to write about me? Who's going to talk about me? Well, I guess it will be me." And nobody can tell our stories better than we can. So I encourage people, to write just like Mr. Blockson. My books are related because of Mr. Blockson. The one, My Name is Only Judge, is a result of Mr. Blockson. I was working at the African American Museum at the time. I was the curator of collections and exhibitions, and they would meet down at the museum, hold meetings, Generations Unlimited, before anything was at 6th and Market Street. Back in the day, it was called High Street Market. And they were the ones that advocated to have something put there to represent the fact that enslaved Africans, Only Judge was one of the people that were there. Because of him, the state and the city made funds available, and they put in for bids to architectural firms. And one architectural firm asked me, would I be their curator? So I said yes. I started doing the research, and I ran across Only Judge, and I read this novel by a non-Black person, and she said when Oni was in Philly, she was ambivalent about taking her freedom, escaping, right? Because, this was a hot place for anti-slavery. And the next thing I knew, was like Oni's spirit channeled me, and I'm writing, my name is Only Judge. I took my freedom, right? So I ended up with this children's, I called Mr. Blockson right away, and he encouraged me to write the book. And he also recommended me getting in contact with Cal Massey, who did the illustrations for the book. But the thing that's so important about it, the person that was highlighted all the time about escaping from 6th and Market Street was Hercules the cook, right? I'm sure you've heard of Hercules, but guess who escaped before Hercules? Oni. And so it was a pleasure doing that. He was just encourage you to write, and tell your stories, your family stories, whatever, make sure you document it. interview the oldest person in your family, get a record of that, in the digital age, we can create our own history. We don't need, and the thing about it, what was taken down, those panels down at 6th and Market Street, Mr. Blockson wasn't pleased with what they put up there in the first place. He wanted something like, I don't know if anybody's been up to New York and saw the African Burial Ground on Broadway. Well, it's beautiful. He wanted something like that represented and had the names of all of the people who were in Philadelphia, the free and the enslaved. So it would have been like a monument as opposed to, those boards that were so easily taken down.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. There is a question, does the collection include any materials about the Black History Week held in Philadelphia in 1928?
Now, I'm sure we do. Our librarian, what you can do is email me. Like I said, we have materials here, and we also have access to the Black historical newspapers. So I would say yes, and to contact Eslaku Burhanu, who's the librarian. And all of our emails are on the website. If you go on to the Blockson, the Temple University Library is the Blockson website, and you can get the email and just email her and she'll respond back. Yes.
Okay, excellent. What is the oldest book in the collection? They have over 5,000 books.
Over 5,000 rare books.
Rare books, okay.
Yeah, we have many more. In the 700,000 books that we have, we have the latest to the oldest, many that are out of print. But the oldest dates back to the 1600s. It's by Leo Africanus, and it's a history and description of Africa. It was first written in Arabic in 1550, and then an English translation came out in 1600. We also have first editions of people like Phyllis Wheatley, her 1773 edition of poems. We have that here. We have first editions of Frederick Douglass's narrative. We have Nat Turner's book, David Walker, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. Paul Robeson was one of Mr. Blockson's heroes. So we have a lot of materials that relate to Paul Robeson. We also have music. We have a turntable here, and we expanded. We were doing a lot of jazz. Judge Jones mentioned the Mosley collection. In the John W. Mosley collection, we have over 200,000 negatives and photographs taken from the late 30s through the late 1960s. Right now, we have up an exhibit on the Pyramid Club, which was at the 15th and Girard. But we have other collections, photograph collections of Bruce Turner, Bill May, and others. So we have a lot of photographs. And right now we have an exhibit up in the Charles Library. Dr. Deborah Willis came out with her latest book, Reflections in Black, Reframed. It's the 25th anniversary of that book. So she came out with another, which includes 130 new additional photographs in that book of the younger photographers and so forth. And that exhibit will be up in the library until the end of March. So anybody, if you can get down to Temple, it's worth seeing. And again, it's free and open to the public.
Now, what was the name of that book by Leah Africanus?
It's a history and description of Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you email Eslaku, she can give you the title.
Okay. We know, and you can hear it in your voice, the passion, the love that you had for Dr. Blockson. He was your longtime mentor. I think you said you were a graduate assistant, a student when you were working with him. He was wise counsel personally and professionally. What makes a great mentor?
I think the cliche. I'll start with the cliche and then go.
Okay.
Practice what you preach. A lot of people don't practice what they preach. Also, be patient. Also, have integrity, respect for others. Be serious about whatever you do. You have to be serious, and be willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work. And Mr. Blockson was like Dr. King said, whatever you do, be the best of it, right? Because I can remember after Mr. Blockson retired and people still wanted to interview him all the time. And the first thing he would ask me when I'd call him, have they read any of my books? And that would determine whether they got to talk to him or not. Like if you are talking about doing some research or wanting to interview somebody, you need to do the research first. And as an educator of myself, that's what you have to do. You do the research, because how can you come up with good questions if you don't know anything about the subject matter? And also, he was the type of person that would stick up for you, right? He might be able to scold you for something, but he wouldn't let anybody else, right? And it was so funny because when he retired, he said, Diane, if anybody ever, whatever you want to do, if it's any problem, just use my name. And listen, I said, oh, okay. So I got a lot of things done by just saying, well, Mr. Blockson said, no problem, no problem. So, and just taking the time, he was the type person, he would take the time. He was never impatient. I called him a cultural warrior, because, he could be very gentle, but, he didn't take it, nothing from nobody, he had that side to him. If you, look out, I've seen it.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Turner, this collection is important certainly to African Americans. But why is it important to all Americans?
Because it's African American history is American history. And if you take the African contribution out of American history, there is no American history really. From beginning to now, we have books on African inventors. Who do you think had the agricultural skills besides Native Americans, to cultivate the land? It took Africans to be able to cultivate rice in South Carolina. Nobody else knew how to do that before Africans could. So Africans often the myths are, they were brought here, well, first against their will, to labor, right? But they also, besides labor, they brought cultural and technological knowledge. When you talk about American culture, you're talking about what? Jazz, the blues, gospel, all of those things, soul food. And I taught down at the University of South Florida in Tampa several years. And up in the north, we call it soul food. Down there, they call it Southern cuisine, right? But, so many things that people of African descent have done, and it's American history. And most immigrants don't start to come here until the 1820s.
Mm-hmm.
So the Africans were here, the date we used, 1619. But once again, I said research was done that showed they were in America, BC. So once again, some of the oldest Americans are people of African descent. And when you talk about freedom and liberty, some of the greatest stories about that come out of this enslaved African community, like Oni Judge.
Right.
On the last page of her book, she says, listen, she lived to be 75 years old, right? And she escaped and was up in New Hampshire. George Washington found out about her and told her to come back. And she sent word back to him that she would come back under certain conditions, that if in his will he wrote that she would be freed, so forth and so on, So what does that tell you about her? She saw herself as his equal, right? If she's trying to negotiate with him, he's looking at her as inferior, a woman and inferior. But she sees herself very differently, so she never went back, but the last page of the book, she says, listen, children, remember me. When you talk about freedom, when you think about freedom, my name is Oni Judge, and I took my precious freedom.
Love it. Love it. My name is Toyka Williams. Yes. Dr. Turner, you have been such a gem today, and I am so appreciative of you. We're going to close now.
Once again, thank Judge Jones. He's very persuasive.
He is certainly
he's the one that did
on that Black History Committee.
Well, if I could share briefly that this event has been taking place for 20 years now. 2005, one of our committee members, Marlene Wood, she wanted us to be reminded that we honored Dr. Charles Blockson in person in 2005. And one of his wishes at that time was he told that committee to keep running this event. Don't let it go away. So we're always trying to push to make sure we have the right people and the great ideas at this event. So thank you, Dr. Turner. You're extremely busy at Temple University with everything you're doing now, but you took your time to spend some time with us here in Montgomery County.
Well, it was an honor.
Thank you. We heard the mandate. Dr. Blockson said you have to keep doing it. He also said that knowledge belongs to the world and it must be passed on.
That's right.
I hope the mission was accomplished during this time we've spent together, and you have gained some knowledge and will share it with others. At a time when historical narratives are increasingly challenged, this program affirms that Black history is foundational to American history and essential to understanding our shared present and future. Thank you again, Dr. Turner, and all program participants for sharing today. Today's presentation was streamed live on Montgomery County's Facebook page, YouTube page, and our Black History Month website. You can rewatch the session and share it with others using those platforms. We also invite you to join us next week, February 18th at noon for a special presentation from the Historical Society of Montgomery County. The registration link should be posted on the county website. So please take a moment to sign up before or after this session closes. Again, we appreciate your participation, and I hope to see you next week. Have a wonderful week, wonderful day.
Same to you. Take care. Peace and freedom.
Yes, thank you.